Hello and welcome to YNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Alexander Isak's private Anfield moment could lead to liftoff in Liverpool career. For just a few minutes on Saturday, long after the 60,000 supporters had shuffled out of Anfield following the Merseyside derby, Alexander Isak might have felt an unwanted sense of déjà vu. Liverpool's number 9 had spent his final weeks on Tyneside training alone as the acrimonious nature of his exit from Newcastle United reached boiling point, and, as a result, was made to work to his own individual regime at the Magpies' Benton base, often hours after his teammates had left the building, and having played around 25 minutes of the 2-1 win over Everton on Saturday lunchtime for his new club, Isak once more found himself being put through his paces alone, running from the goal line to the halfway point inside an empty Anfield while Liverpool staff watched on. This time, though, the warm-down routine was anything but a punishment. Instead, it was very much part of the wider plan that has been hatched to get him up to speed as quickly as possible for an unbeaten Liverpool. And as Isak shuttled up and down the Kop end, in drills overseen by fitness coach Dr. Connell Murtagh, he will have been comforted by the knowledge that this was all geared towards getting him back to the sort of levels that made him the most expensive transfer in British football history at the start of the month. Last week was an encouraging one on that front for the 125er man who celebrated his 26th birthday on Sunday. He made his Reds debut in an hour-long cameo against Atletico Madrid for what was his most significant outing since May, building on that with another run out from the bench as Arne Slot's men beat the Blues in the 247th derby. The minutes accrued means Isak has now played around 100 for club and country since the end of last season, and more could arrive in the Carabao Cup when the Reds begin their campaign at the third round. Stage at home to Southampton on Tuesday night with Jadon Danns. Having trained with his more senior colleagues on Sunday, Isak may yet be tasked with another showing off the bench, but he is almost certain to play some part in a game. Most of his similarly high-profile colleagues will be sitting out. It all comes at an opportune time for a club record capture keen to get sharp, and the eye-watering size of the 125 or some inevitably brings about more scrutiny and attention, meaning there is little time and patience, externally at least, for Isak to work his way back to full fitness before he begins repaying the fee. Hugo Ekitike, who himself signed from Eintracht Frankfurt in a deal that may rise to 79 million in July, says players should not be concerned by how much clubs pay for their services, and he is looking forward to working alongside Isak for the coming years at Anfield. Alex will help the team and help me reach new heights, Ekitike says. But deciding who plays will mostly be the coach's issue. If I perform, I think he'd put me on the pitch. He can even try to put us both on the pitch. I think it's just good. I don't care about the price tag. Everything that can be said on the outside, the transfer fee, it is what it is. Football changed. You have a big price tag on your back? Just play football. Dean Saunders, like Isak, made British football history when he signed from Derby County for 2.9 million in 1991, and the Welshman knows how expectations can spiral as a result of exorbitant fees that are way out of players' control. I've played for Liverpool and I've been the record signing, so I know how the expensive players are feeling right now, Saunders tells the Echo. Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak will be desperate to make an impact. Isak looks like a magnificent signing, his training videos look sensational, and I'm sure he will hit the ground running. The expectations are, of course, really high. You come into one of the biggest clubs in the world with a price tag everyone is talking about every time they mention your name. But you have to remember your job. I lived and breathed scoring goals. Even when I was out of form, I dreamt about scoring, and I hope Isak is the exact same. You think about the amount of goals you're going to score in a season, and I used to aim for 20, but I'm sure Isak will have even more on his mind. Stan Collymore joined Liverpool as the most expensive player of all time on these shores. When he left Nottingham Forest in an 8.5 million deal back in 1995, and he looks at the cost of a big money transfer through a different lens as a result. I think that the difference between breaking the transfer record as I did 30 years ago and now is that it's hard to adjust for inflation and work out how similar the deals were, Collymore says. Kieran Maguire, football finance expert, worked out that an inflation-adjusted figure for all the transfers has Alan Shearer at $250 million to Newcastle, and my move to Liverpool was maybe $260 million. So my transfer fee was really a massive outlier back then in a way that Isak'S isn't. At the time, I was breaking the $7 million record for Andy Cole to Manchester United from the season before. So, while there are incremental jumps these days, back then the increases were more like leaps, the equivalent of going from 150 malars to 300 malars within the course of a season or two. Now, though I don't think the size of the transfer fee matters, players are asked less often about their fees in press conferences and at games. Managers don't get asked much about it either. The focus is more on whether the player is settling in. That is because we're used to such astronomical riches in the Premier League. Those high fees are omnipresent. All Isak'S really needs to do is to get fit. That's the primary thing. And he needs to hit the ground running, because if he hits the ground running, Liverpool fans will forget about all the shenanigans with Newcastle. In contrast to Saunders and Collymore, Peter Crouch joined the Reds 20 years ago for a modest fee of $7 million from relegated Southampton, but the England man, somewhat infamously, endured a goal drought that saw him go 19 games before he opened his account against Wigan Athletic at Anfield. Crouch has previously likened the coverage of that drought to a witch hunt. Such was the attention on him at the time, and he is acutely aware of how intense the demands are on those tasked with scoring goals at a club the size of Liverpool. Hopefully, Isak'S can have a similar but longer career than Suarez and Torres, as those two shook the cup and were only there for a short period, Crouch says. If he can stay for 7-8 years and replicate what they did, he'll have a good career. I feel like replicating Salah is too far gone because of the numbers. I saw enough in that first hour against Atletico to know that he's going to be a massive success. He's so sharp around the box and gets his shots off so quickly that it's only a matter of time before he starts scoring goals. There's always going to be some rotation, but the starting players won't want it. Saunders, speaking via WDW Bingo, adds, "They don't want to give their competition the opportunity to perform on the pitch and keep them out of the side for the next game. As a manager, you love it when the players are motivated like that. So I think all of this new competition is healthy for Liverpool and will only make them an even better team. These players will be playing through small knocks, the kind that last season they would have missed a game or a training session through, and those are the teams that win trophies. This summer will have unlocked a hunger in the Liverpool dressing room. Even Salah, who is almost immovable in the Liverpool side, will be looking to raise his levels this season. Liverpool may have found their Mark Guehi transfer alternative after scouting mission. Liverpool's pursuit of a new centre-back could see them turn to a new target in the January transfer window. That's if you believe the latest rumors, of course. With speculation continuing to swirl ever since one of the busiest summers in recent history at Anfield in the transfer market, Arne Slot added 8 new signings to the Liverpool squad this summer, including the arrivals of Alexander Isak'S and Florian Wirtz, who both cost at least $100 million to bring to the club. Before the window closed, though, the Reds tried to strengthen their defense with the signing of Mark Guehi. A $35 million deal was agreed with Crystal Palace on deadline day, only for the move to fall through at the 11th hour. In the end, Guehi has remained a Palace player, and there is now uncertainty about whether or not Liverpool will try to sign the England international in January or on a free transfer next summer when his contract expires, 3 weeks since the summer transfer. Window closed, and Liverpool are now being linked with another defender, who could be viewed as an alternative to Guehi. Team Talk have reported that Liverpool are expressing an interest in signing Juventus defender Gleison Bremer. The report claims that the Reds are joined by Manchester United and Chelsea in scouting the Brazilian centre-back over the last 12 months, with a view to potentially making an offer in the future. It remains to be seen if this reported interest will lead to Liverpool making an offer to sign Bremer in January or next summer. A lot will depend on Guehi's future and whether a move for the Palace defender is still possible. If not, there is evidence that Bremer could be a valuable addition to the Liverpool defense should the Reds try and sign the Juventus star. Bremer joined the Serie A Giants from Torino in the summer of 2022 and has gone on to make 95 appearances for the club. Bremer missed the majority of last season with a serious knee injury that saw him restricted to making just 8 appearances in total. The 28-year-old has now returned to full fitness and played a key role in Juventus's impressive start to the campaign. The aforementioned report also claims that Juventus have kept 46 clean sheets during the games where Bremer has played for the club across the last 3 years. This is an impressive rate for a top-flight defender, and will certainly give Liverpool reason to consider a move should Bremer be identified as a player of interest. Liverpool, Florian Wirtz brings more sadness than joy to the fans after 116-minute transfer. Florian Wirtz has yet to show his best form since joining Liverpool. The highly rated German, who was a target for several clubs during the summer transfer window and cost the Reds 100 million, has struggled to make a mark in the Premier League. Liverpool have won all 5 of their opening league fixtures and also claimed victory in their Champions League opener. However, not everyone at Anfield is convinced by Wirtz. The Spanish newspaper AS reports that the 22-year-old summer signing has yet to establish himself. Wirtz at Liverpool. Limited impact so far. In the recent Merseyside derby against Everton, Wirtz started on the bench and was introduced in the second half. Despite getting game time, he failed to impress, leaving fans frustrated after high expectations for his arrival. He came on at the 15-minute mark, but still hasn't shown any of the qualities that had half of Europe fighting to sign him. He was mediocre and missed another opportunity to please the Liverpool fans. Wirtz is struggling to adapt to the Premier League. The unique style of English football and the strong form of other Liverpool players are overshadowing the German star. So far, fans have felt more disappointment than joy with his signing, wrote AS. Wirtz joined Liverpool for a reported 150 meters or 130 meters, having impressed at Bayer Leverkusen last season. Yet, Arne Slot has struggled to find the right role for him in the squad. Slot explains Wirtz benching. Wirtz was expected to play as a playmaker behind the striker, linking up with Liverpool's wide attackers. However, the space he needs doesn't always fit Liverpool's current setup. Against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, Wirtz showed glimpses of his talent but lacked consistency, flashes that were routine during his time at Leverkusen. AS added, against Atletico, he was the most misaligned forward. His level was almost invisible. Szoboszlai's excellent form also complicates matters. The Hungarian has been deployed in different positions, and against Everton, Slot put him in the attacking midfield role originally intended for Wirtz. The young German therefore had to wait for his chance on the bench. Arne Slot explained his decision to keep Wirtz on the bench, citing the congested fixture schedule and the player's ongoing adaptation to English football. Slot opted to start more experienced players instead. I applied the same reasoning as when I left Mac Allister on the bench against Atletico. 3 games in 7 days is intense. That was one of the toughest matches, so we adjusted across the games against Burnley and Atletico, Slot said. Against Everton, I felt Szoboszlai, who also played both games, is more adapted to the Premier League's intensity than Florian, who just arrived from Germany. It's simply about the number of games in a short period, he added. At just 22, Wirtz's move to Liverpool remains one of the most high-profile transfers of the season, but he faces a tough challenge to adapt and meet expectations in the Premier League. Liverpool boss. Arne Slot pays tribute to Matt Beard after tragic death. A great human being, Arne. Slot says Liverpool Football Club will always be there for the family of Matt Beard after the sudden death of the former women's manager was confirmed over the weekend, the club announced the passing of the 47-year-old on Saturday evening, saying the 2-time Women's Super League winner with the Reds was not only an extremely committed and successful manager, he was also a person of real integrity and warmth. Anfield will hold a minute's silence before Tuesday night's game with Southampton, while the players involved in the third-round tie will wear black armbands in tribute to the popular Londoner. And speaking ahead of that game, Slot said the club will support Beard's loved ones in any way they can as he talked up the job performed by the coach during his time on Merseyside. My reaction was one of grief, Slot said. I met him last season, and he not only did great things for this football club, for the women's team, back-to-back league titles, came back to the new women's team when they were playing one division below. So that tells you probably how much he loved the club as well. If you hear a thing like this, I think 47 if I'm correct, that's my age as well at the moment, then you are devastated to hear. I think in these moments the football world always shows itself, at its best, and that's also what happened. Now, it's not only that he gets all the respect he deserves here at Liverpool, but I think all around women's football. I've heard and also saw the respect the Arsenal fans showed him, so that tells you how much impact he had on the game of football. Slot added, then we only talk about football. I think the Melwood staff and everyone that worked with him liked him so much, and that's probably even a more important legacy to leave behind than the trophies you win. That, the person you are, is always more important than what you've won. But in his situation, both things were combined. So successful as a manager and a great human being. Very important we pay tribute for what he meant for this football club. And this football club is not only the men's team, it's also the women's team, and he had an enormous impact on women's football here with Liverpool. But apart from that, it's also his family that's going through such a hard time at the moment. As I've experienced being here now for 1.5 years, if people are going through a difficult period, the Liverpool fans, and we as a team always want to be there for the people that go through such a difficult time. That's now the situation for his wife and his 3 children. Thank you for watching. Like and comment, subscribe.